Welcome, guys, to episode 4 of Caravan Blitz. I have with me, as we always do, Fayne. Fayne, thank you, sir, man. Thank you for coming to another episode of the Caravan Blitz.
Hey, glad to be here, Manu. Glad to be here. It's amazing.
Yeah.
I always love doing these.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. Every time we do these, man, people seem to like them, and we get lots of comments. And I actually had somebody asking me if we could make this a twice weekly show, and I'm like, it's hard enough to come up with 6 topics a week, whenever we don't have as much content as we would typically have. So let's slow down on twice weekly. Maybe in Alpha 2 we can start talking about twice weekly. So let's just get right into it. I have a couple of people who have given me suggestions for topics for Caravan Blitz in my YouTube comments, and so that's what this first one is. And this guy was wondering about. We know that 80% of dungeons are going to be open world dungeons, which means that 80% of raids are going to be open world, which means 80% of bosses are going to be open world. And since you're getting all of this open world content, that means you can be attacked while you're in the middle of a boss fight. And their concern was that you would turn off the casual player or the casual audience. Most people are not going to want to be attacked while they are in the middle of doing a boss fight, and or even worse, have somebody come along and get the last hit and steal your boss kill. And so I'm just, what do you think about that? And he had some specific points on it, and I want to go into that a little bit more. But what do you think about that idea of that the open world PvP boss fights turns away the casual players?
I mean, I can agree to some extent. I have a very different opinion of this than most people do. Some people are very pro. It's great. You're going to bring some people that are maybe at PvP spec slightly, or maybe even a whole, we're doing the raid and we're bringing another 20 people that are just going to stay behind and kind of PvP sweep for us. That being said, I played an MMO years ago where there was open world PvP. You'd be killed anywhere, including inside dungeons. And what it ended up devolving to, and I'm curious to see if this happens within Ashes of Creation, was you enter the boss room or the room that has the best respawn rate for experience, and you would enter it with your group, and there'd be another group there, and you guys would say, oh, okay, haha, sorry, you guys are clearly doing this. Just send me a whisper when you're done clearing it. Because there became a mutual respect of, I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to let you have the maximum experience so that you can be done faster, and then we can come in here and do that. And I'm curious to see if that is how it sort of devolves within Ashes of Creation. I mean, what do you think about that?
Well, to me, that's not devolving, that's evolving. That's us going in a forward or positive direction. So I had 2 major thoughts that I thought about this, and one of them was what I said in the leading up about the last hit and stealing the kill. I directly took that from his comment, like what he was saying in his comment. But the reality is that that's not how it works. It's a percentage-based thing. You've got to do the most percent. So if there's 2 groups, then you got to do 51% of the damage. If there's 3 groups, then you got to do 34% of the damage. Your group has to do 34% of the damage. It's, moving on. If there's 4 groups, it's 26%. And so that was kind of the thing that stood out to me the most, was even somebody who is this early on, we're years away from release, and somebody who's watching content creators, and in this case, watching like speculative guessing content creators, still don't have the facts right. And so he thought, if I get the last hit or they get the last hit, they're going to steal the kill, and that's not the case. And it's like, number 1, are we as content creators not doing a good enough job of getting that information out there? Number 2, is Intrepid not doing a good enough job of getting that out there? Or number 3, is it just one of those things where until people get in the game, they're just not going to know? People aren't going to realize until they get in.
Yeah. I mean, Steven did address it at one point, right? And I think the example that he gave was, there's 2 groups, they're going after a boss. If your group gets the first hit, then you need to bypass like a 40% threshold. If the other group is coming in second, they need to get over the 60% threshold. So if you get in and if we tag it first and there's 3 of us, but this group of 10 comes in and just does 75% of the damage, that's great that you tagged it first, but you really just don't have that much of a right to those drops into that loot table. And so, and I love that system, right? It's not just, I don't care if they hit it first. There's still something to fight for there. They tagged it first, so we have to pump DPS versus hey, we tagged it first, so we really only need to meet a certain threshold, and it's much less of a threshold than they have to meet. I think that makes it fair. You get 5% damage on a boss, you've tagged it first, another group comes in. They've got that's an uphill climb. Not only, a vast majority of the damage done, but to out DPS you. And so I think that that's a worry that people are really thinking about. Now, how does it play? This is the big question. I think this is the question they're really trying to ask. How does it play with, instead of just, attacking the boss, do they just come in and wipe your entire group and then they begin attacking the boss? How does that work? Can you already have hit that 40% threshold and there's nothing that they can do about it?
Right. And that's a really good question. How exactly that part of it would work out. The other point that I wanted to bring up when it came to this, was the idea of it. Well, when he's talking about pushing away casuals and all that stuff, and there's some degree to which that's probably true. It probably is going to push away the more casual audience. However, oh God, how do I want to put this? I lost it. Whatever the point was, I lost it. But yes, I think it will push away. The casual audience to some degree. Now I remember what it was. It has to do with the grouping thing. I've been saying this over and over and over again, and I'm just going to keep saying it, and I hope more and more people hear it. This is not a solo game. I wouldn't even say this is necessarily a small group game. It's not a game you're going to run around with 2 friends, just you and 2 friends and 3 people. Yeah. There's so much content in this game that is built for groups. And then the fact that you want the protection of what they say, safety in numbers or whatever. And so I think a lot of people are going to have to accept that, get out of that solo mentality, that small group mentality. Everybody wants to fractionate off into their own little groups and stay away from everybody else. And it's like, and I've said this a million times, if you want to play an RPG by yourself, like, go play Skyrim. It's a way better RPG than like World of Warcraft or Star Wars: The Old Republic or any MMO. Skyrim is a better RPG. Pillars of Eternity or Dragon Age. Those are all better RPGs to play by yourself. So go play those. And I know that's kind of like a gatekeeping way of putting it, but I just don't understand why people play massively multiplayer online games and then play by themselves.
Well, and there's plenty you can do in this game by yourself, right? There is plenty, but you need to understand that with scale comes content. Right. Yes. So I can do plenty of stuff solo, and I will probably, I'm a part of a very large guild. I will do a lot of large group content. I will still do a good amount of it solo. And so you just have to understand that if I'm a solo player, I want to be a solo player, I can access 60 to 70% of this game. The other 30%, I'm going to need to group up with some people to take care of. And that's just how an MMO is.
Well, that's how other MMOs are. I think this one is like, there's 40% of the content is for a solo player, but 60% of the content needs at least a few people, if not, many people. So I don't know. It's just a very interesting conversation, and like somebody wanted us to talk about it, so I thought I would bring it up. So we're going to move into the next topic here, and that you see on the screen there is Intrepid is different. And the thing is, so last night, maybe I'm reading the situation wrong, but here's what happened. Intrepid brought the servers back up on Thursday, like they said they would, for this final test, and they extended the test for a few days to give people a little bit of extra time, and most likely it's because of what you brought up last week, Fayne, that we lost a weekend due to the DDoS attacks. And the only patch note we got was ore ingots now stack higher. So it was like they didn't make any changes. The only change they made was that one, which that's fine, whatever. It's not a big deal. But for some reason, that seemed to have broken the game. Now, gathering just flat out doesn't work. And not only that, but the whole contextual pressing E to like do things in quests, like those places where you got to go up to something and press E to interact with it, that is just broken. The whole pressing E to interact with things is broken. And it's like, okay, well, the servers are broken this weekend for this last test. What now? And instead of being like, oh, sorry guys, you're screwed. What they did was Steven hopped on last night and he said, hey, look, let's do dungeons and sieges. hop into this server. He put out the word, the canary call on the Discord, and he said, everybody hop into this server. I'm going to level everybody up, give everybody gear, and I'm going to teleport you around the world, and we're going to go do dungeons. We're going to go do sieges. And that's what he did. The staff came into game. They leveled everybody up. They gave us all money. Everybody bought gear if you needed it. They teleported us to a dungeon, and we just sped run through a dungeon as fast as we could. And, there's 75, 80 people in a dungeon that's supposed to be 8. And so we were just mollywopping everything. We go in, we killed the Elder Dragon of the Wood. They teleported us back to the starter area and immediately started a siege. And then, and that if they had just done that, that would have been enough. But then we wake up this morning and Steven's like on Discord putting out the canary call again. Hey guys, let's do this. More dungeons, more siege tests. Let's go do it. And I think that they are different. I think that is the thing that has engendered me most to this game is this development staff is different from any development staff I've ever seen, most likely because they're not a video game company. They are a video game company. They've never been one. This is Steven's first attempt at owning a video game company, right? And so he's not doing it the way that they do it. He's doing it the way that he wants to do it. And I think it's so much better. And I think it's going to lead to so much more in the future. And the ideas of what they could possibly pull off once the server goes live by having Steven hop on and be like, haha, dragons are attacking this node, and like spawn in a bunch of dragons to attack a node, and now everybody has to go defend it and stuff like that is a possibility and something that seems way more realistic than in any MMO I've played since like early Ultima Online. Just what do you think about that?
Yeah, I mean, I think that, we always say in sports, oh, they're just built different. They're just built different. I think Steven is built different, and I think that like part of what's endeared me to Intrepid this whole time is they are self-funded. They do have a vision. They're not here just for the dollars. I mean, the dollars need to come, right? It needs to be a profitable enterprise when all is said and done. But they are here to make a great game. Steven is here to make the game that he's always wanted to play. And this kind of interaction this early in a development cycle, and I know that obviously you have to have some interaction because it is a transparent development cycle. You can't just spin up the servers, leave them on and say, have fun with what you've got. I'm sure that on some level he's noticed that the population in Alpha 1 has gone down. I'm sure he's noticed that there aren't as many people logging on a per server in a day-to-day basis. And so to create these kind of events with the very limited framework that they have now and get that energy back up for this last weekend, I think it's just such a, some people are playing chess, and I think Steven's definitely playing checkers here. That's it. You get the I see what you did there. Yeah. You see what I'm doing there. You see what I did there.
I see what you did there. All right. So yeah, I'm fired up about how different this staff is, and I'm excited for the way that they're doing things differently than other MMOs have done it. And speaking of doing things differently than the way other MMOs have done, this has been brought up so many times on stream. Like every week, whenever I am streaming, this gets brought up, and then somebody specifically, again, this person's name was Chronix GG, and he asked on my YouTube channel if I could talk about this during the Caravan Blitz episode. So this one's for you, man. The idea of having a new map, or a map that none of us have ever played on, or staying on the Alpha Island map all the way up until launch, and then on launch we get a new map. And part of me thinks that from a technical perspective, this isn't possible, or at least it isn't smart. Maybe it is possible, but not smart to do it that way. But have you given any thought to this? Do you have any thoughts or plans or ideas, something that you think that might work? And just the idea being that in other MMOs, these big guilds, the organized guilds, the ones that have already started, like for example, you're an Axiom and you guys are already doing this. You guys are 100% planning to use your beta and alpha experience to have already selected a node and a node location where you guys are going to go, and everybody knows that at launch everybody's logging in and bum rushing that node, and you're going to try to level up that node faster than the others. And it's going to be a hand selected node. It's going to be a specific node type that's in a specific node location that meets these criteria that you guys come up with. And there's lots of guilds that are going to do that. And in other MMOs, they do the same thing, maybe not necessarily over nodes because that's a new system, but they already know how to level their characters. They know which dungeons give the most experience, all of those things. And so they're bum rushing to those things and getting a big advantage over the casual or the people who did not pay to play early on, so to speak, as we're doing. And Intrepid, this is something in the vein of Intrepid doing things different. This is a way that maybe you could combat that by having us on this alpha island the entire time, and then boom, they drop a totally different map on us. What do you think about that?
I mean, I don't think it's a terrible idea in practice. My fear would be how far back it puts the development of the game by having to create this other map. And I think that what they've done, and I think this might come back to what we spoke on earlier with the PvP during the boss fights and maybe a little bit of misunderstanding, is they intend to open up, I believe once we get into the betas, up to 50% of the map, and we will have like essentially one full continent the way it's going to look. So keeping in mind that when the game releases, there's a whole nother continent. And yeah, some people might be drawn to the thing they know, but I think a lot of people are going to be drawn to the new exciting thing. And I think that's how they'll spread out the player population. Also, all the nodes will be what they are. If we say this node that's next to this mountain is a religious node, they are going to randomize the nodes for launch. So when the servers come down, the node type will be randomized for launch. So we may
have they confirmed that?
They have confirmed that.
Okay, so that was one of the things that I was going to suggest. That was my idea, was how about at the node locations themselves have to stay the same. The map has to stay the same. You can't create a new map because there's going to be bugs on the map. There's going to be seams in the map. There's going to be places where you fall through. And the way you test that is during alpha or during beta and having people all over the map. So I was like, the whole idea of having a new map that nobody's ever touched before on launch day is, God, it's a horrible idea. But the thought of randomizing the nodes was what I was thinking you could do, is make it where, there's a mountain node over there, but it might be military, it might be divine, it could be any one of the four, you don't know. So you can't just have already decided. And so that was my idea, and I didn't know that Intrepid had already confirmed that, because I haven't memorized every single word that Stephen has said over the last 4 years.
I think that's such a great design, right? Because even in terms of this planning, we can say, and we've talked about this ad nauseum. We said, listen, we're going to say this is our preferred node type. This is the one that we're okay with, and these are the two that are just unacceptable for Axiom. Which means that if we go 50% of the time, we say, okay, we like this location. You kind of have to map out 5 locations and have that kind of preferential node type. So we go to this, and it's like, oh, well, we were never going to stay in a military node. We didn't want to do military node. And this is leveled up, and we see soldiers, it's a military node. We now need to move and redouble our efforts in a new node, because we're now essentially that amount of experience and time behind in leveling it up, and we don't want to get locked out. Right? So there is a little bit of RNG, and I think that prevents the problem of, well, it's all going to be explored. We're only going to be up to 25. We're going to, in terms of the classes, we're going to have just the bare bones minimum of classes. We're going to essentially be able to select it and augment on a base level. So we still have 26 through 50. We still have 50% of the world. We still have all the different combinations, because I know that won't be solved during Alpha 2 or Beta, the combinations of dungeons opening up and what's leveling up. It'll be a great time to explore, but I don't think you have to be too worried about having an entirely new map to test on.
No, I don't think we're gonna have an entirely new map to test on. I was just really curious if they had a system in place to try to limit that. Like I said, the people the pay to play people getting an advantage.
The pre-planning,
the ones who waited, and it seems like that's about as good as you can do with the system that they had in place by randomizing those. So it's a really good one. So guys, that's going to be it for this episode. You guys know how this works. We're only discussing the first 3 topics that you see right over here on this channel in this episode. If you want to see part 2 of this episode, it's more of the exact same thing. It's just me and Fayne discussing the bottom 3 topics you see on the screen right now. Head over to Fayne's channel, check that one out, show him some love and all that. The link will be in the description below. But that's all about all I have for you guys for today. Subscribe to the channel, and we'll see you guys in the next video.